So hello my friends, Devaun Lennox here, PhotographyPX. In today's video, we're going to do an overview and review Leica's history. The origins of Leica start in 1865, following the partnership between the founder Ernst Leitz and Carl Kellner's Optical Institute. Leitz eventually takes over Optical Institute following Kellner's death, at which point he renames the company to the Ernst Leitz Wetzlar. Over the subsequent years, he continues delivering and manufacturing microscopes, selling almost 10,000 units annually. In 1911, Oscar Barnack started working for the company with a voracious dedication to developing a portable camera. In 1914, Barnack invents the UR Leica, a prototype 35mm portable film camera with a fixed 50mm lens, providing an alternative to the larger conventional film cameras used during this time. The release of this camera proved to be a significant milestone in the company's broader history and photography as a whole. While Barnack used the standard cinematography 35mm film, he decided instead to flip it horizontally to a 3:2 ratio. Changing its orientation is the sole reason the 24x36mm format was created, the most popular format still in use today. In 1920, Ernst Leitz II takes over the company, a change that proves to be historically significant in the coming years. Later in 1925, the UR Leica is publicly released for consumers as the Leica I, which was immediately successful following its release. Next in 1930, they released the Leica I LMT, which stands for Leica Thread Mount, which now had interchangeable lenses. Finally, users weren't stuck with a single fixed lens. Later in 1932, they released the Leica II, which was the first camera with a rangefinder. In 1933, the Nazis take over, and the resulting Holocaust slowly emerges. Progressively, Jewish business owners and families begin to struggle from increased isolation. During this time, Leitz initiates what would later be called the Leica Freedom Train. He helps persecuted Jews work by taking them as apprentices and eventually helping them flee Germany. All the while, the company continued working in hand with the Nazis to manufacture optics, cameras, and weapons for military operations for the larger propaganda machine. Following World War II, the United States supports the company by ordering cameras, giving Leica a unique but distinct post-war advantage over its competitors. At this time, Leica becomes supremely famous, and they become the go-to cameras due to their long-standing reputation. However, during the subsequent years, the landscape slowly changes as innovations in the SLR market popularized. In 1951, they released the VisoFlex, an external attachment that gives existing Leica rangefinders SLR-like functionality by adding an internal mirror and separate viewfinder. In all, this was their first response and acknowledgement that SLRs solve much of the design problems with rangefinders. In 1954, they released the M3, a wildly popular camera that became iconic during its release cycle. This release was a turning point for the manufacturer, as this camera was adopted worldwide. But in 1959, Nikon releases the F1, their first SLR camera. It's from this point Leica takes a turn towards transitioning to the emerging technologies, though slightly behind the competition now, which becomes something that ultimately impacts their business today. The release of the F1 calls professionals, especially sports photographers, to immediately transition to the new system, leaving Leica in the process because it simplified the process of focusing. Leica realizes the upcoming transition from rangefinder to SLRs and responds by releasing their first SLR, the Leica Flex, in 1964. Then following the Leica Flex SL releases in 1968, which was the first camera to have TTL through the lens spot exposure metering. The next significant milestone in the company's evolution is the decision to unify the company name officially to Leica in 1986. From there, they begin to thoroughly transition to the digital age with the release of their first digital camera, the S1, in 1996. Over the next 2 decades, they continue to release cameras, one of which occurred in 2008 with the release of their first professional-grade medium format SLR, the S2. The next significant change occurs not in the form of a camera release. Instead, the company migrates its factory back to Whistler, moving back to their original heritage. From there, something interesting happens. In 2016, they partnered with Huawei, a smartphone manufacturer, to create optics for their P9 smartphone. As of today, Leica is the only camera manufacturer partnered with a smartphone company outside of Sony who manufactures their own phones. And it is from this point that we now know Leica as we know them today. So there you have it. There is an overview of Leica's history as a camera manufacturer. I hope that you found this overview and their history insightful, and that it gave you a little bit more insight on their heritage. For more information on Leica and other cameras that they've released, visit our website, PhotographyPX.com. Go to our camera reviews page, then to the Leica section, and there you can find more information on this camera manufacturer. I've been your host, Devaun Lennox. We will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you found the contents of today's video insightful and it added value to you. If you're new here, please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Also, leave us a like and a comment in the description down below. Let us know if we overlooked something or we missed something that we covered in today's video. I've been your host, Devaun Lennox. Photography.